In a revelation that still chills the corridors of modern psychology, Carl Jung, the pioneering psychiatrist and father of analytical psychology, uncovered a phenomenon so subtle yet so destructive that it forever altered his approach to understanding human behavior. Through decades of meticulous clinical observation, Jung discovered that an astonishing 83% of his most dangerous patients, those who would ultimately devastate lives, careers, and families, shared a singular, nearly invisible warning sign long before their actions reached catastrophic levels. This sign did not manifest through overt hostility or violent outbursts. It was not the glaring anger or obvious deceit one might expect. Instead, it lurked beneath the surface, concealed behind charm, intelligence, and social grace. It was insidious, appearing often in individuals who seemed kind, articulate, and even morally upright. And yet, its potential for destruction was immense. Jung's warning was stark and unflinching. When you see this sign, your only real protection is immediate withdrawal. This phenomenon is, without exaggeration, the most dangerous psychological mechanism in human relationships, shadow projection fused with absolute certainty. The most dangerous sign, projection with conviction. Projection is a universal psychological defense mechanism. Everyone projects aspects of themselves onto others at some point. You might accuse a colleague of being arrogant when, in truth, you struggle with pride. You might see selfishness in a friend when you have not acknowledged your own self-centered impulses. These ordinary projections are typically fleeting and relatively harmless, often resolved with introspection or dialogue. Jung identified a darker, weaponized variant of projection, one that transforms a defensive psychological mechanism into a potent tool for manipulation and destruction. In these individuals, projection is coupled with absolute conviction. They do not merely suspect that you possess certain flaws, they know it. In their internal reality, this knowledge is absolute and immutable. No evidence, argument, or rational explanation can penetrate this mental armor. Once entrenched, their perception becomes a reality, not only for themselves but often for anyone who becomes entangled in their orbit. This is projection weaponized. A person's own darkness, unconsciously denied, becomes a destructive force aimed outward. The patient who changed everything. Jung's understanding of this mechanism crystallized in 1913 with a patient who initially appeared the epitome of harmlessness. He was eloquent, charming, and outwardly concerned for the welfare of those around him. On the surface, he seemed exemplary in every social measure. But a subtle and disturbing pattern emerged. Every time the patient labeled someone as manipulative, selfish, or malicious, Jung noticed that the traits he described bore an uncanny resemblance to qualities the patient himself possessed. The patient was unconsciously externalizing his own manipulative tendencies, cruelty, and selfishness, projecting them onto those around him while maintaining a steadfast belief in his own moral innocence. The consequences were catastrophic. Within 6 months, the patient had destroyed 3 romantic relationships, caused 2 colleagues to lose their jobs, and driven his own brother to a nervous breakdown. All the while, he sincerely believed he was a victim of others' malice, fighting battles that existed only within his projected reality. This case exemplifies the hallmark of dangerous projection. One's own internal darkness, denied and unacknowledged, becomes a weapon projected outward, cloaked in moral certainty. Why it's so persuasive. Modern neuroscience sheds light on why such individuals can be remarkably persuasive and convincing. Dr. Robert Sapolsky of Stanford University has demonstrated that when someone projects their shadow with complete certainty, their brain exhibits neural patterns similar to those observed in delusional states. In other words, they are not merely lying, they genuinely perceive their projections as reality. This creates a reality distortion field, a psychological force capable of bending the perceptions of those around them. Friends, family, and colleagues can be drawn into their narrative, often without realizing it. Contradictory evidence is not merely ignored, it is reframed as confirmation of the projected flaw. An apology, a moment of self-reflection, or a rational explanation may be interpreted as proof of manipulation, guilt, or malevolence. The destructive effects of this distortion are profound. Entire families may turn against one member, believing they are morally corrupt or dangerous. Workplaces may collectively ostracize an employee based on the projector's narrative. Communities may ruin reputations based solely on the conviction of a single, persuasive individual. The danger lies not in overt aggression but in the subtle, almost invisible psychological mechanics that warp perception and manipulate reality. 5 red flags that signal danger. Jung outlined 5 unmistakable markers of this dangerous type of projection. Recognizing them is crucial for self-preservation. Absolute certainty about your motives. They do not ask or wonder about your intentions, they declare with unwavering confidence who you are, what you feel, and why you act. Your internal reality is irrelevant, their narrative defines it. Immunity to evidence. Facts, documentation, or rational explanations are ineffective. Evidence is twisted into further proof of your supposed flaws. Even clear, objective data becomes a weapon in their hands. Excessive emotional intensity. Minor disagreements provoke extreme reactions, rage, tears, or elaborate moral denunciations that paint you as inherently corrupt or malicious. The intensity is disproportionate to the event. Perpetual victimhood. No matter the circumstances, they position themselves as the innocent party. Responsibility is never theirs. Accountability, empathy, or self-reflection is absent. Recruitment behavior. They actively seek allies, persuading others to adopt their narrative, often under the guise of concern or protection. Those who join unwittingly become participants in the reality distortion field, reinforcing the projection and isolating the target. When these 5 signs converge, you are no longer facing a typical interpersonal conflict, you are ensnared in a psychological trap of profound danger. The escalation pattern. This phenomenon follows a predictable pattern of escalation. Initial projection, minor misreadings, odd accusations, or subtle distortions begin. Conviction crystallization, the narrative hardens. You become the problem in their perception. Reality distortion, every action, no matter how benign, is interpreted as evidence of your supposed flaws. Social recruitment, others are drawn in, persuaded to adopt the distorted view. Collective possession, the narrative gains momentum, isolating and undermining the target. Systematic exclusion, social, professional, or emotional exile becomes inevitable. Stage 2 is critical. Recognizing the signs here is essential. Failure to intervene allows the distortion to spread like a contagion, engulfing your life. How to protect yourself. Jung's guidance is uncompromising and practical. Trust your reality, your perception of yourself is the ultimate authority. Do not allow another's conviction to override it. Stop explaining, attempting to clarify or defend yourself provides ammunition for the projector to manipulate. Silence is a shield. Document everything, keep detailed records of conversations, events, and dates. History is malleable in the hands of a convinced projector. Check with outsiders, seek perspectives from individuals outside the distortion field. Their clarity provides necessary grounding. Withdraw early, once recruitment begins, separation, physical, social, and emotional, is the most effective protection. This is survival, not surrender. The most dangerous individuals are not those who shout, rage, or brandish hostility in obvious ways. They are often the very opposite, polite, intelligent, socially admirable. They may occupy respected positions in society, professors, managers, religious leaders, even family elders. Their charm is disarming, their reasoning compelling, and their presence often comforting. Yet beneath the surface, a storm brews. The danger lies not in deliberate malevolence but in a profound psychological vulnerability, unconscious denial of the shadow self. The shadow and its projection. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow is central to understanding why these individuals become so dangerous. The shadow represents the aspects of ourselves that we refuse to acknowledge, the impulses, desires, flaws, and darker tendencies that conflict with our conscious self-image. Every person has a shadow, it is an unavoidable part of human psychology. For most, the shadow is managed through self-awareness, reflection, and moral integration. We may recognize jealousy, selfishness, or anger within ourselves and choose to act in ways that contain or transform these impulses. But some people are unable, or unwilling, to confront these parts of themselves. The internal conflict is intolerable. Rather than accept the darkness within, they externalize it. The shadow is projected outward, onto those around them. This projection is not casual or accidental. It is weaponized unconsciously. The person sees others as embodying the very flaws they refuse to accept in themselves. In their perception, their own destructive impulses are absent. The world is full of manipulators, liars, selfish opportunists, and immoral actors. Every interaction confirms their narrative, every slight or disagreement is evidence of others' corruption. Why politeness and intelligence amplify the danger? Polite, intelligent individuals are particularly dangerous because their traits make the projection almost invisible. People naturally trust them. Society encourages respect for intelligence, eloquence, and social grace. When these individuals accuse, advise, or warn, their words carry weight. Consider a scenario at work. A highly respected manager subtly blames a junior employee for a project's failure. The employee feels uneasy, sensing that the criticism is disproportionate or misdirected, but the manager's reputation, social standing, and calm demeanor make it difficult to challenge them. The projection is cloaked in logic and charm. Colleagues are drawn in, believing the manager's narrative. Within weeks, the junior employee finds themselves isolated, doubted, and marginalized, all because the manager could not acknowledge their own mistakes or insecurities. Intelligence and social grace allow the projector to control the narrative without overt coercion. Their arguments feel reasonable, even convincing. Their charm disarms skepticism. And yet, underneath the civility lies a distorted moral map. The world is divided into those who bear their shadow and those who do not. The innocent, the empathetic, the conscientious, they become the scapegoats. The unconscious nature of malice. A critical distinction must be made: these individuals are not always consciously malicious. Their cruelty is rarely intentional in the traditional sense. They are not always aware that they are projecting their flaws onto others or that their actions are destructive. This is what makes them so difficult to detect. Conscious villains can be identified, resisted, and outmaneuvered because their intentions are explicit. But unconscious projectors operate under a different paradigm. They believe their own narrative absolutely. To them, you are guilty, flawed, or corrupt. Their conviction is unshakable. No amount of reason, evidence, or logic can persuade them otherwise. This is why Jung referred to the acceptance of oneself as the most terrifying task in life. To fully confront the shadow requires courage, introspection, and the willingness to face uncomfortable truths about one's own motives, desires, and flaws. Few can achieve this. The majority remain in denial, searching endlessly for external vessels to bear the shadow they cannot carry. And if you fail to recognize the pattern, you may become one of those vessels. The human cost of shadow projection. The consequences of this type of projection are profound and far-reaching. Because the projector is often socially skilled, intelligent, and persuasive, the impact is rarely confined to personal interactions. It spreads through networks, workplaces, families, and communities. Families. Parents or siblings may project their insecurities onto a family member, subtly or overtly creating a narrative of blame. Children may grow up internalizing a distorted sense of guilt or inadequacy, believing themselves to be at fault for problems they did not cause. Sibling rivalries, parental favoritism, and lifelong resentments often have roots in unacknowledged shadow projection. Workplaces, a charismatic leader may subtly blame subordinates for failures they themselves caused, recruiting peers to their point of view. Over time, talented employees are ostracized, demoralized, or driven out, all while the leader maintains the appearance of fairness and competence. Entire office cultures can be poisoned without anyone fully recognizing the source of dysfunction. Communities and social circles. In social groups, projection can generate conflicts, rumor cycles, and collective scapegoating. One person's conviction about another's supposed flaws can ripple outward, influencing opinions and behavior. Community decisions, reputations, and alliances can shift based on the projector's narrative rather than objective reality. The human cost is psychological, emotional, and sometimes even professional or financial. Victims may experience anxiety, depression, self-doubt, and a gradual erosion of confidence. When the pattern is subtle and insidious, the victim may even begin to doubt their own perception of reality, wondering if the accusations are true. Recognizing the patterns in real life. Awareness is the most effective defense. Recognizing the hallmarks of shadow projection allows you to protect your reality and your psychological integrity. Key indicators include excessive certainty about your flaws. They declare with unwavering conviction that you are wrong, selfish, or immoral, without entertaining alternative explanations. Twisting of evidence, facts, apologies, or clarifications are reframed as proof of wrongdoing. Their narrative absorbs all evidence. Emotional overreaction. Minor disagreements trigger disproportionately intense responses. Rage, dramatic storytelling, and public shaming are common tools. Recruitment of allies. They persuade others to adopt their view, creating a social echo chamber that reinforces the projection. Persistent victimhood. Regardless of circumstance, they position themselves as the innocent party, portraying any conflict as external aggression. Spotting these patterns early is critical. Early recognition allows you to maintain psychological boundaries, protect your relationships, and prevent the escalation of social or professional exclusion. Strategies for protection and resilience. Once identified, several strategies can help you navigate these interactions safely. Trust your perception. Ground yourself in your own reality. Your experience of your actions, intentions, and feelings is authoritative. Do not surrender it to someone else's narrative. Limit engagement. Avoid unnecessary explanations or justifications. Anything you say may be twisted into further evidence of your faults. Document interactions. Keep detailed records of conversations, incidents, and events. Written logs serve as anchors to reality when memory and perception are being challenged. Seek outside perspectives. Confide in neutral, trustworthy individuals who are not enmeshed in the projector's orbit. Their clarity helps you validate your experience. Withdraw strategically. Emotional, social, and sometimes physical withdrawal is often the safest course. Separating yourself from the projector's influence preserves your autonomy and mental health. Self-reflection and integration. While protecting yourself, also confront your own shadow. Understanding and integrating your flaws prevents you from unconsciously becoming entangled in others' projections. Transforming awareness into power. Awareness of these dynamics is more than defensive, it is transformative. Observing the pattern in others, and in yourself, grants a profound level of psychological mastery. You begin to recognize that not every accusation reflects reality. Not every conflict is a reflection of your moral or personal failings. Human relationships are often shaped by internal battles hidden from plain view. This insight allows you to interact with others without losing your sense of self. You can maintain compassion without self-sacrifice, assert boundaries without aggression, and navigate complex social dynamics without being manipulated. Furthermore, by confronting your own shadow, you reduce your vulnerability to projection. Integrating your flaws diminishes the likelihood that others' insecurities and projections will take hold. In a sense, self-awareness acts as both shield and sword, protection against psychological harm and a tool for navigating relationships with clarity and confidence. The moral imperative of shadow work. Jung's chilling observation, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely," speaks to a profound moral and psychological imperative. Each person's journey toward self-awareness is not optional if they wish to avoid unconsciously harming others. Failure to accept one's own darkness leads inevitably to projection, a relentless search for external vessels to bear the weight of what is unacknowledged within. Those who have achieved some level of integration, those willing to confront jealousy, selfishness, cruelty, and fear, become less likely to harm others unconsciously. They may still err, but their errors are conscious and accountable, not hidden, destructive, and projected. This is the difference between conscious morality and the subtle tyranny of unconscious projection. Conclusion: reclaiming your reality. Ultimately, the most dangerous individuals are not the loud, the aggressive, or the overtly cruel. They are the polite, intelligent, and socially admirable, whose denial of their own darkness renders them blind to the harm they inflict. If left unchecked, their projections can distort your relationships, undermine your self-confidence, and disrupt entire social or professional networks. Awareness is your ultimate defense. By observing these patterns in both others and yourself, you reclaim your reality, protect your mental and emotional health, and safeguard your relationships. You begin to see not only the psychology of the projector but also the mechanics of human interaction itself.